How did you turn your father-in-law's words, "You'll never be real family without giving me a grandson," into the very thing he regrets most? When I first met Harold at Daniel's family barbecue, he shook my hand and said, "Hope you're good at making boys. The Brennan name needs to continue." I thought he was joking. Daniel's nervous laugh told me otherwise. At our wedding reception, Harold gave a toast that made half the room uncomfortable. To Daniel and Sarah, may they be blessed with many sons to carry forward our legacy. He raised his champagne glass while staring directly at my stomach. The sooner, the better. My sister-in-law Patricia leaned over and whispered, "He made my life hell until I had Tyler. Just ignore him." But ignoring Harold was like ignoring a foghorn in your living room. When our first daughter Lily was born, Harold walked into the hospital room, looked at the pink balloons and said, "Well, practice makes perfect." He didn't hold her, not once during that visit. 2 years later, when Rose arrived, he didn't even come to the hospital. He sent a text to Daniel. "Let me know when you have real news." I screenshot that text, saved it in a folder labeled evidence. The breaking point came at Lily's 7th birthday party. Harold showed up 45 minutes late with a gift, a baseball glove, for a child who'd never shown interest in sports. "For when you finally have a boy," he explained loudly, in front of 20 other parents and kids. "Someone needs to use it." Lily asked me later that night why Grandpa Harold didn't like her. I couldn't find an answer that wouldn't involve words I didn't want my 7-year-old learning yet. For months after that, Harold escalated. He'd introduce Daniel as my son who hasn't given me an heir yet. He'd tell waitresses that I was still trying to do my job as a wife. Once at Easter dinner, he actually said the words, "2 daughters is basically failure in my book." Rose, 5 years old and sharp as a blade, responded, "Then your book is stupid." The room went quiet. Harold's face turned the color of the ham on his plate. "Daniel, control your child." "She's right though," Daniel finally said, setting down his fork. "Your book is stupid." That's when I knew we were ready for phase 2 of my plan. See, I'd been documenting everything. Every insult, every dismissed birthday, every time he referred to my girls as not enough or practice runs. 7 years of casual cruelty, all saved in my phone. At Thanksgiving, Harold started his usual routine. He was 3 drinks in, telling his brother about how Sarah still hasn't figured out how to give me a grandson. That's when I stood up, clinked my knife against my glass, and smiled. "Actually, Harold, you're absolutely right. You deserve a grandson." The entire table turned to stare. Harold's eyes lit up like Christmas had come early. "In fact," I continued, pulling out my phone, "Daniel's cousin Marcus and his husband just adopted a beautiful baby boy. So congratulations, Harold. You finally have a grandson in the family." The silence was delicious. Harold's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. That doesn't count." "Doesn't count?" I tilted my head innocently. "But it's a boy. With the Brennan last name, actually, since Marcus legally changed his husband's name after the wedding. Isn't that what you wanted?" "You know what I meant," Harold sputtered. "Oh, I know exactly what you meant," I said, scrolling through my phone. "Like when you told the neighbors that I was defective, or when you said my daughters were consolation prizes, or my personal favorite, when you told your golf buddies that Daniel should trade me in for a woman who could do the job right." I started reading the texts, the emails, the transcribed voicemails, date stamps and everything. 7 years of his greatest hits, while his brothers, sisters, and own wife listened in growing horror. Daniel stood up and added, "We've already started the paperwork, Dad. We're moving to Portland in January. Marcus found us a place near them. The kids are excited to grow up with their cousin." "You can't just leave," Harold shouted. "Watch us," I said. "My girls are going to grow up knowing they're more than enough. They're going to have grandparents who actually show up for their recitals and remember their birthdays." I looked at Daniel's mom, Eleanor, who had tears in her eyes. "Eleanor, you're welcome to visit anytime. Harold, you're not." Rose, my brilliant 5-year-old, piped up, "Bye-bye, mean grandpa." Harold tried to salvage it. "This is ridiculous. You're destroying the family over nothing." Patricia, his own daughter, laughed bitterly. "Nothing? You missed my PhD graduation because Tyler had a soccer game, a 6-year-old soccer game where he sat on the bench." His other daughter, Monica, added, "You've never once been to Emma's dance competitions. Your only granddaughter for 10 years, and you couldn't be bothered." The family revolt had begun, and I didn't have to say another word. We moved in January. Eleanor visits monthly, stays in the guest room, and has taught the girls how to make her famous apple pie. She sent us photos from last week's family dinner. Harold sitting alone at the head of the table while everyone else crowded into the kitchen laughing. Marcus's son calls my girls his cousins. They protect him on the playground and teach him their secret handshake. Harold has never met him. Last week, Daniel got a text from his dad. "Can we talk?" Daniel sent back a photo of our daughters at their new school's science fair, holding their first place trophy. No words, just that. Harold never responded, but Eleanor told us he keeps that photo on his phone.